Welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast, your free weekly resource to make you a better fitness business leader. I'm JT, the boss of Active Management, and I'm pumped with the rest of the Active Management team to be the premier sponsor again in 2017. Doing this helps us achieve our why in business, which is to reduce the healthcare costs across the globe, so we love supporting it. Between you and us, we can get more people moving and more often. So let's get our hustle mode on. No matter where you are listening in the world, make sure you check out www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/active for an extra special business resource to free up time for you so that you can then do what you love. Okay, enough from me. Who's on this week's show, Chantel?
Thanks, JT. This week is a first for our show because we're joined by not one, but two guests, Rick Mayo and Mike Gelfgot. You might recall one of our listener interviews with Carmen Nanalo from Anytime Fitness, and at the time, Carmen suggested that Rick would be a great guest for the show. So Carmen, your wish has been granted. Group training is a topic that we get lots of questions about. And last year on show 50, Adrienne Antigua from Gainesville Health and Fitness answered a number of your questions. And this time, we've invited Rick and Mike along to share their expertise on the subject. Right up front, we talk about a heap of great apps to help you get organised in your business. Then after that, you're going to learn some great strategies for converting current members over to group training, critical systems that you need to run a successful program, and tips for launching group training in your club. All of that's coming up in just a minute.
The Fitness Business Podcast is very appreciative of our podcast partners. Here's a quick word from one of our partners.
Looking for industry insights to grow your business? Precore can help. Head to precore.com/fitness business podcast for ebooks, guides, tools, and much more. I think it makes sense that we stick to the theme and make this week's flashback show, show 50, with Adrienne Antigua, where he talks about how to run group personal training so that you make money. So if you missed that show, go back and check it out. That is show 50, and you can find it on iTunes or at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Rick Mayo is the founder and CEO of Allo Personal Training Centre, Allo Personal Training Solutions, and Allo for Women. He is a featured speaker at conferences both domestically and internationally, speaking on how to best sell and service personal training, plus leadership and trends in the fitness industry. He presented over 31 times just last year as a subject matter expert in personal training. He's written numerous articles on the business of fitness for trade journals and contributes regularly to national publications such as Men's Health. Mike Gelfgot's drive to be a different kind of health club owner started 12 years ago when he met his business partner, John Spence. Between the two, they operate 23 Anytime Fitness locations in the United States. He and his team have won multiple awards, including the 2007 Club Operators of the Year, 2013 Success Story and Personal Trainer of the Year, plus 2015 Community Outreach Award. Not only that, but Mike was the very first Personal Trainer of the Year back in 2012 and the first franchisee to get the Anytime Fitness tattoo. So, Rick, I'm going to start off with you. Do you want to share with us just a couple of either apps or systems or rituals that you use to stay focused and to stay on top of things?
Absolutely. So one of the tools that we use, I have a fourth company now. So with all of the different sort of entities and principles in each entity, and the communication became a bit of a strain. And, we ended up we jokingly call it email hell, right? So how do we communicate better as a team? And the best app that we've stumbled across that we love for that is called Slack. That's been very, very helpful for just having all communications happen in one place. So I would say, as far as apps, Slack is the number one app that I use as far as communicating with my team. And that's the most important thing that I do on a daily basis. As far as systems and rituals, I think the ritual would be one that I shared in the top 5, right? Which is each morning, wake up a bit early while it's still quiet, list 5 things and I like to write them. So literally write them on an index card And no matter what happens that day, I will complete those 5 tasks regardless. So those have to be purposeful things that will move my business and or my personal life forward. And as you guys know, the sum of 5 things a day over a 12-month or 365 days, it can be quite impactful. So really just those 2 things.
They're great. And as a matter of fact, I've heard quite a few people using Slack, that app, and say very good things about it. So Tribe, if you haven't checked that out, I'll make sure that we stick a link in the show notes today. And I love that habit that you've got of writing down those 5 things each day. It's a fantastic way to start your day and stay focused. And Mike, tell us about you. Do you have anything that you can recommend?
Yeah. There's a few, much like Rick, there's just so many spinning plates and every day there's a difference between having a to-do list which is just writing things down, versus a functional to-do list, which is when you write things down and you actually give it a deadline of when you're going to accomplish that particular task. And there should be tasks on your to-do list that actually move your weekly, bi-weekly, monthly goals forward. So when you go back to review, you can actually say, okay, I did these 3 things or whatever they may be. But to me, so that functional task list, that lives in an app called Wunderlist. I absolutely love it. It keeps me on point, keeps me on track. The other app that I use that I find really, really helpful is, life is all about patterns and rituals and rhythms. And much like Rick, I mean, every day I get up really early in the morning and I have a ritual, I have a rhythm that I go through. It kind of really sets me up for the day. And if I don't go through it, you don't want to talk to me that day. It seems like everything is off. So I use an app called Strides to keep me habitual with my daily routines, my daily habits. Evernote, of course, is a big one. I have a notebook for every one of my staff members. So every time I have a conversation with any one of them, it goes in Evernote, and that's like my long-term and daily sort of a deal that I use with my to keep track of my conversations. I'm very cognizant of how much time I spend on my device, on my phone, because that could be very detrimental. So I'm always tracking. There's an app called Moment. I actually just discovered it the other day that tells you how much time you're spending on your phone, like how many pickups and how much time you're spending, right? I mean, it's
that kind of scares me.
Yeah, I do not want that.
It was a real shocker. That's why I did it. I'm like, gosh, at the end of the day, I ask myself, like, because we all get 24 hours in a day. It's just like money. And if you don't tell your time where to go, if you don't tell your money where to go, you're going to be broke. So I felt like I was broke in terms of time, like, where does it go? So I'm like, all right, there's got to be a way to track this. And so, yeah, I mean, I looked this app up. It's pretty cool. And so, yeah, I mean, just being aware of it, right? And I was able to cut down on the amount of time I spent on the phone by almost like 25%.
Wow, I really love that as a time management tool. It scares me because if I looked into how much time I spend on Instagram, I think I'd be a little bit shocked. But I love the idea. Well, I feel like you're the king of apps, Mike. There's some great suggestions there. You know
what's interesting? My business partner, Chris Slater, he's like his mind works like a computer. I've never met a guy that thinks or operates. Like when he thinks, I can actually hear the files in his mind, like, filing back. It's really interesting. So he's really the app guy. So he's really turned me on a lot of those apps. We use Google for all of our internal communication with our staff. But the Moments app, I mean, it also tells you, like, when you go in your phone, where do you spend your time? What percent of your time when you pick up your phone you spend, say, on Instagram or Facebook? It's really interesting.
Wow, that sounds absolutely fascinating. So, guys, if you are out there right now, you're running on a treadmill or you're driving a car, don't stop to write those things down. Just head over to the show notes and I'll make sure that we put all of those apps in there for you guys. Okay, Rick, can I ask you to start by telling us what traits you feel an amazing group training coach should possess?
I would say first, in a group setting, a coach needs energy. I mean, if you look at some of the top boutique brands, which, as everyone listening probably knows, is the fastest growing segment, right, of our industry, they are hiring some of the cycling brands or whatnot. They're hiring actors, actresses, entertainers, and then teaching them, to run the play, so to speak. So I like athletics, so I think the best analogy I've heard is hire the athlete and teach the skill. So you're really looking for someone that can carry a room, that can produce a massive amount of energy not necessarily the technical Zen ninja trainer that you use or that we hired when we were mostly a one-on-one training business. So first and foremost, energy. Second, I would say would be someone who can function a little like a bartender, right? If you could imagine a bartender on a busy Friday evening at any establishment, there is 101 people at the bar trying to order drinks, trying to get that person's attention. And they have to be really good at juggling a lot of needs and focus and making everyone feel like they're getting the attention they need when in fact they have, perhaps 50, 60, 100 people standing in front of them. So there's a lot of similarities between that and group training. You have to be able to juggle giving a little bit of attention to each person, right? Moving around, coaching form, and be able to keep your head about you and stay cool while you do that. So energy, a little bit of a bartender, and then lastly, you have to be really good at verbal cues. So when we have interns in our gym, which we have those from local colleges, the first thing that we try to teach them about group training is that you need to be able to coach this entire room theoretically from a 2x2 square, right? So if you had to use a verbal cue to fix Mike's kettlebell swings, what is the best verbal cue that we can give you to get the biggest impact in the least amount of time? So tons of energy, a bartender mentality, meaning they can juggle lots of things at one time without being frazzled. And then ultimately, are they strong enough with their verbal cues to be able to correct exercise without having to go over and put their hands on the clients? And really, those are the big three as far as I see it.
Mike, is there anything that you can add to that in regards to traits that you see from amazing group training coaches?
Yeah, I mean, I would totally agree with Rick. Verbal cues is so big because, especially in a team training session where you might have 10, 12, 15 people in a session, you got about 3 seconds to correct that individual, and you got to be on point. But I would say, 80% of our staff comes from within, either members or clients of our clubs. What I find, we actually just hired this lady. She lost about 150 pounds working out at our club. She couldn't look you in the eye when she first started with us, and now the woman has got more confidence or more energy, like Rick talked about. And so I would say to us, where I see a really successful coach is someone who's really passionate and someone who's got a really cool story that energizes other people, that inspires other people to push harder, maybe go the extra mile.
Another great suggestion. Thank you so much for that, Mike. Now, Rick, over to you on this one. Can you share with us any strategies that you suggest for converting current members over to group training?
Yeah, I think you have to have some type of a hook, right? So if you're going to, say, launch group training in your club, again, let them try it for free, run a lot of times, something 30 days of personal training. We like to call that the 30-day personal training experience, and put a small price tag on it. Perhaps that's an external play for you long-term, and it's going to be, say, at, $99 or something. Recommend less than $100. Well, it would be great to launch it in your club or to mine your existing membership with the exact same tool, but then you say, hey, as a gift to you for being a great dedicated long-term member, you can do the 30-day personal training experience for $49, something like that. And you can take that same type of idea and structure, and you can bury it in a fat loss challenge. You can disguise it as a fitness challenge, or if you're using wearables in your gym, you can do something along those lines. So there's a lot of ways to continually go back throughout, say, a 12-month time period to mine your existing membership if they're not doing training. Group training is a great place to put them. It's not expensive to service that on the back end. Run some low barrier hook and just reframe it each time that you launch it so that it speaks to a different crowd of people.
Rick, what can we do to market externally to attract prospects to group training within our clubs?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we use an external hook that is some type of a low barrier offer. Mm-hmm. And I think that's key, right? It's like, we know that we can put the right advertisement in front of the right person, but we don't know what the right time is. Right. So it's like, when are you ready to change your life? Which is typically when someone's going to hire a coach, right? They're ready to make some type of transformation. And that's not a knee-jerk, typically, reaction, right? So we just want to make it as easy as we possibly can by creating the absolute lowest barrier. So if that person's on the fence and they're considering a life transformation or a coach, that they might say, okay, what the heck, for $99, I'll give it a shot, right? So take some type of low barrier. Obviously, most of the eyeballs for the ideal clientele that we're looking for these days are on social media. A lot of them, if you're in the personal training segment, are on Facebook. Maybe if you're in a crowd that has a young urban environment, maybe your Instagram, and then of course we're looking at Snapchat eventually. But go where your customers are, and that's going to be on social media, and you typically get a bigger bang for your buck. Pump great content so that people are like mildly interested in what you're saying, first of all. And then on the back end, have a low barrier hook with some type of call to action. And I know that's a real crop duster height way to describe it, but in a sense, that's it. And everyone's doing a version of that is successful in their marketing right now.
Okay, so taking that into account, maybe, Mike, you might be able to share with us, in the clubs that you own and manage, have there been any specific promotions that you've run, say, on social media, that have been particularly successful for you?
Yeah, for sure. I couldn't agree with Rick more. It's that simple. You run some sort of a low barrier offer, a 15-day, 21-day, or 6 weeks sort of offer. And yeah, it works. We're just wrapping up a promo. It's called the New You promo. And essentially all it is, it's for $79. It's a 21 days of unlimited personal training that comes with 3 private sessions for us to guide people through nutritional coaching. So we can say we give 21 days of coaching. It comes with a private Facebook page. A lot of personal attention. And one of the interesting thing is, so these people are members of our club, so they buy a membership, and then at point of sale of membership, our membership salespeople are telling them, hey, listen, by the way, Rick, let me show you about this new You program we're doing. Listen, for $79, you can get unlimited access to a coach for 21 days. There's all this stuff that you want to do it. More like a suggestive sort of a sale, you want to do it or not. So we're also marketing that online, and we're doing it at point of sale of membership. And so the people that end up purchasing it at the club with the $79, they get a gift certificate to use and apply towards PT. And that's really been working quite a bit for the people that are coming in that are just purchasing this thing online. At the end of the 21 days, the PT guys convert them with a membership and a personal training program. Once again, though, letting them know that because they purchased it online, we actually give them a $79 gift certificate to offset the cost of the PT program, since they already invested per se $79 into the PT program. So that's a really good hook. That's a really good way to convert a lot of these people. And we've converted, last time we did this, we converted almost 55% to PT clients off of these 21-day programs. So it worked really well.
Wow, phenomenal. And Mike, in that example that you just gave, was that just Facebook that you use? Were there any other social media platforms that you use for that?
Yeah, Facebook is it. Yeah, that's what the primary one, yep. Okay.
Do either of you have any examples of other platforms that you've successfully used?
We have used other platforms, but I can't say that we've done it successfully. So we are using and we are advertising on Instagram now. Listen, again, in some of our markets that it works really well, but in the mothership market where my larger gym is, it's a bit of an older clientele in that area, a lot of golf courses and whatnot. So there's not a lot of individuals on Instagram there. So we haven't seen a huge impact.
Yep. So Facebook is the way to go. Mike, do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. But I would say just in terms of even just traditional, like guerrilla sort of type marketing, lead boxes still do the trick. Get your lead boxes, whether you're a personal training studio or in Anytime Fitness or any other studio, you got to get your just normal lead boxes and then offer a killer offer like 3 months of unlimited personal training versus enter here to win, a 6-month membership. No, give a much bigger offer, a much more higher valuable, if that makes sense. The offer that has got a lot more value. Let's put it this way. Those lead boxes still are very effective if the club manager and the PT manager actually work the market.
Can I ask you this, Mike? With the lead boxes, do you find that you run them back to back, or do you run them for, a 4-week period and then give it a rest for a little while? What has worked best for you?
So here's what works best for us is if you have an actual relationship with the guy that allows you or the woman that allows you to put a lead box in their shop, essentially. That's what tends to work the most because they take care of it. They actually direct people to it, and you're going to get a lot more entries. So with that sort of relationship, hey, it's there all the time. But if you don't manage your lead boxes, and particularly if you don't manage the managers of the stores, and you don't create even some sort of maybe like a private sort of a team training session just for the business owners per se that you have these lead boxes with, if you don't take care of those people and you don't take extra care of them, they won't take care of you. So to say just to put a lead box out there, no, you gotta work the manager, you gotta work the person, and when that happens, they'll give back to you.
You don't want to be the gym that has the lead box gathering dust, do you?
No, listen, it doesn't work, right? You've got to build a relationship with the individual first, and not a lot of our managers always necessarily do that, and you find that those lead boxes are totally dead.
Great advice. Okay, Rick, let's go back to you now. Do you want to share with us 3 critical systems that you feel are needed for a successful program?
Sure. Yeah. First, I would say essentially for group training is to control your programming. So have a systematic approach to programming. I'm always baffled when I go into a facility or a brand and they just allow coaches to just sort of shoot from the hip and do what they want. And I always use the analogy of going into, say, a Starbucks, which we can say what you want about their coffee, but they're all over the world. And I'm pretty sure that I can get the same cup of coffee in Sydney, that I can in Atlanta, and with the same order, and it's going to taste the same way. And you might be able to find a one-off cup somewhere better, but it's going to be pretty darn good. And so that's the same type of customer experience that we should be shooting for in our group training. And the only way to control that is to control the product, right? So the trainers don't just make up the workouts that they want to do, which creates a huge differentiation between one coach and another, different styles, different tools, things like that. If you want to control the customer experience, and it's very, very important, then you need to control the programming, just like if you were a Starbucks, you would want to control the recipe around the coffee, if that makes sense. So yeah, first, programming. Second, sales. So have a sales system. I'll tell you this, if you're having individual trainers sell group training, it's never going to take off. And the reason is that just inherently human nature, if I'm selling someone, if I'm doing an assessment or something, and I'm selling someone into a program that doesn't directly benefit me per se, even if it's in a small amount of commission, it's not a huge advantage for me to sell them into, say, a group setting, as opposed to selling them me as a one-on-one trainer, then I'm probably not going to sell a lot of group training. And we see that across the board. So I would say have a sales system and a person and or a position that several people can sit in that are dedicated to selling personal training. You'll still sell private training just as well as you do now, maybe even the small group, which is our 2 to 4, but you'll really sell the heck out of that group training if you have someone sitting in that seat who has the person's best interest in mind without any particular self-motivation, so to speak. And then lastly, I think what people underestimate is the logistics of group training. So make sure that you do your legwork, that you have a good CRM system and a really, really good scheduler, right? Because if you start putting a lot of volume onto a shaky system, you're going to be hurting cats, right? It's not going to be a good scene. So I'd say control your product, which is have a global programming for your product. Have a sales system and have people dedicated to selling, not individual trainers, especially if you're selling layers or levels and groups, and then have a CRM system that helps you keep everything organized.
Rick, I think that second point that you made is possibly a big aha moment for many of us out there, and that is to have that dedicated person selling group training, because I think that a lot of people will relate to the fact that it can be a bit of an uphill battle if we got a personal trainer and we're trying to get them to sell group training. So I think that was really sensational advice. And if we don't have that in our business already, then that's a really good tip to have a look at whether or not we need to change that structure and have that one person, or as you say, multiple people that fill the role that are dedicated to and rewarded for selling that group training. Mike, is there any extras that you would add to that?
Gosh, no. I mean, I can tell you from the guy, I mean, we always had, I can't tell you that we had like a universal system like Rick talks about before we started doing team training and small group training, but we did have a backbone to everything that we did. It just wasn't good enough. So when we started to do what Rick is talking about, I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it. You can control the experience from a customer. I can walk into any one of our clubs and I can tell you exactly what workout they're doing, what week we're on. And it's so simple and it's so easy for me to give a trainer a day off. And a lot of them feel that they can't take a day off because they have all these clients that they want to service. And I totally get it. They're all bleeding hearts as I am too. And as Rick, and I'm sure you, Chantel, as well. But they've got to be able to take time off. And unfortunately, you're going to lose trainers as well. So just to speak to really what Rick was saying, I guess nothing to add to it. Got to have a universal product. Got to have one guy selling it. And if you don't have a system to manage the data, it's going to be a real tough gig.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for that information there. Now, I'm going to try and get through these last couple of questions as quick as possible because I've already taken up a lot of your time. Mike, tell me, am I right in saying that you're moving more towards group training than personal training these days?
2016 was a rough year, let me tell you. We have 23 clubs, and we converted 21 of them into some sort of a combination of group training or small group training or just small group training.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot. And there's many different reasons. We had a good product and we're rocking it. We were doing for sure. We were doing 6 to 8 times the numbers that an average, say, Anytime Fitness Club was doing. But what I wasn't getting is the results that I always knew that we could get. And I knew that just based on one, lack of, or not enough, I would say before and after photos. And I would take a look at our attrition rate. And it was just higher than it should be. Mm-hmm. Like, why is that? Like, what's happening? Like, who's doing this better than us? And there's a lot of people that are doing this better than us. And we got, met Rick, and from that point on, I'm like, yep, I'm gonna beat his numbers. That's what I want to do.
It's good incentive. And so, what has the result been of you transitioning those 21 clubs?
Sure, so we did really well in 2015 selling one-on-one personal training. So I can't say to you that I can point to all the clubs and say, okay, because of team training, now my numbers are better. Numbers were pretty good. The guys did a pretty good job at selling PT, but there are definitely a few clubs that are doing much better, and I can definitely point to it's because of where we're selling team training at those clubs. And it's for 3 main reasons. One, it's more time with the coach. Before we were a 30-minute club, 30-minute one-on-one personal training club. Now every session is a 60-minute session. So when you spend more time with the coach, 2 things happen. You see better results because you're spending more time with the coach. And of course, 2, you get better results because now I actually have time to correct your postural deviations and do the things that I know that I should be doing as a good personal trainer versus telling you, hey, Chantel, this is what I want you to do before and after your workout. And most people simply, don't do it. And, let's face it, it's a lot more fun to work out with other people. And we were always missing that. It was always just one-on-one with the coach. But when you get a group of people together, and listen, let's face it, as human beings, we're not really meant to live our lives by ourselves. Really, if you trace humanity, we always lived in tribes. And so now what I see, the biggest thing I can tell you, Chantel, is 2 things. One, the culture, the energy, the soul, the mojo in our club is twice. And our club is twice what it was before. And 2, I'm seeing early signs of some serious success, and that's our attrition numbers are going ridiculously fast downwards, which is awesome. One of our clubs went from 50-something to 21% in the last just 5 months. And I can tell you it's because of team training.
That is some amazing results that you've got off the back of that, Mike. If there are other club managers and owners out there listening to the show right now, and you had to say to them the number one way, and I'm probably asking you to do the impossible, but if you had to choose the number one way that you were able to transition one-on-one clients into that group training environment, what would that be?
Sure. Yeah, that's a really good question. It's a very popular question. I get the question all the time, like, what is the number one? So I would say to you, the number one way you would transition your one-on-one club into your team club is take really good care of your clients, meaning give them 30 days of unlimited personal training completely free. Before you do that, you got to make sure your trainers that are working in your club are totally 100% on board and are raving fans of this new program you're bringing in, right? And then 2, take care of your clients. Give them 30, maybe even 40 days of unlimited personal training. Here's the hook and here's the catch. At the end of their experience, you must sit down with them and discuss with them what their experience was, and this is a one-on-one session, and then actually ask them, Mrs. Jones, do you want to convert your previous and your future sessions into this program? And the answer, of course, should be yes, and then you redo your you redo it in your CRM and you're good to go.
Mike, just to clarify, when you said that the unlimited 30 to 40 days, did you mean into group training? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, so when we convert our clubs from one-on-one into team, that's what we do. Yeah. We make sure that every trainer is a raving fan and they're totally have completely bought into the program. That's number one. Number 2, we have a proper onboarding approach, and the onboarding approach is every in that club, we will do 30 days of unlimited PT to our clients to get them to experience and try the new program. You can't talk to me about the new program if I, as a client, have yet to be able to try it. And once I try it, then you can talk to me about it. And then we can actually have an intellectual conversation. You can then make a decision on what you want to do. And that's worked really well. I mean, we're converting in the first 30 days, Chantal, we're converting 60 to 70% of our PT draft. And our average PT draft is, about 15, 18K or so, right? But we're converting that in the first 30 days.
That's phenomenal. Okay, guys, I've got one more thing to ask you before we finish up today, and I'm hoping both of you can help us out with this last question, and that is, Rick, maybe starting off with you, can you give us some FitBizration and tell us your top 3 tips for launching group training in a club? Before we dive into the final takeaways from Rick and Mike, here's a quick message from one of our wonderful sponsors, One Fit Stop. We'd like to thank our sponsor, One Fit Stop, for their support, and we highly recommend all fitness professionals go to onefitstop.com to find out how their software will enable you to take control of day-to-day management in your fitness business. One Fit Stop's scheduling, client management, programming, and payment collection tools will set your business up for success. Before we go back to Rick and Mike, just in case you missed it in show 87, Jaron from One Fit Stop is actually offering a free trial to all of our Fitness Business Podcast tribe. That is you guys. So I've put a link in this week's show notes just in case you missed it last time. So make sure you jump over and check it out. So it's a free trial from One Fit Stop. Okay, now let's go back and hear the last tips from Rick and Mike.
1, Mike mentioned before, full buy-in. So every single person on your team, from the young man or young lady that works at your desk to the person who might do your cleaning, everyone has to have a chance to participate and to fully understand and appreciate the benefits of group training. So the most successful clubs have 100% full buy-in from every single person on the staff, not just the coaches and the trainers. So that would be number 1. Number 2, I would say make it visible. So I do see a lot of clubs committing the mistake of putting their group training in the, say it's a large club, in the back of the club in a closed space where no one can see what's happening and they don't get to feel the energy, hear the music, anything like that. So that's a big mistake. If you want to change the culture of your gym and get people interested, nothing better than putting some high energy dynamic training like group training in front of someone who's doing a long walk to nowhere on the treadmill, right? So put it in the gym so that people can see it. Make it if you want it to be the emphasized product in your gym, put it in a place that's highly visible. So that'd be 2. And then 3, again, run some type of internal hook. It's not a situation of build it and they will come. We think it's cool and great, and we put kettlebells and turf, and we get all excited. And I'll tell you that buying the equipment and setting up the space and putting it on the schedule is not enough to drive volume to the program. So you've got to create some type of hook, and these mining tools that we talked about earlier, 30-day personal training experience. Mike mentioned give it to people for 30 days. Whatever that is, you have to actively pull your clients into that product, because we always say you can't buy the Ferrari unless you've driven the Ferrari, right? So why would I pay for training when I don't even know it? So come in, experience it. We know you're going to love it. And that's it. That's my 3. Buy in, make it visible, and hook them. Somehow hook them.
Great analogy with the Ferrari as well. Mike, how about you? Do you have a couple of tips for launching group training into a club that we haven't already covered off?
No, I would say the last one would be, right there with Rick, make sure that everybody buys in. You got to have a proper onboarding approach, which my approach is 30 days. And this is to our clients, 30 days of unlimited personal training. And then part of the approach is then you have a one-on-one with the individual, and they need to make a decision right there with you on what they want to do. And when you do that, what we found is a lot of people tend to actually upgrade because they love it so much. And I would say the third one is have education available to everyone and ongoing calls and visits to check for quality. You got to constantly drive it. Just because you put it in and you might have a decent launch in your first 30 days, you can't stop there. Every month you got to constantly go back and re-educate your not necessarily, maybe not re-educate, but continue to educate your trainers. Always check for quality, sweat the details and the small stuff, because your average trainer wouldn't do that, right? I think that's very important, the ongoing part of it.
Guys, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I feel like we've got a huge amount of value for all of our tribe out there, from the apps that we talked about right at the very beginning of the show to implementing group training and converting current members, plus attracting new members into your club. So Rick and Mike, thank you so much for coming on today, for sharing your experience with us and for joining us on the Fitness Business Podcast.
No, thank you, Chantel. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, right there. Thank you, Chantel.
Precore Quickfire 5.
Monique Valcour is a coach and management professor, and she's going to be joining us next week to discuss the symptoms of burnout and how to beat it. But for today, she's here for the Precore Quickfire 5. Welcome along to the show, Monique.
Thank you very much.
Can you start off by telling us, why do you do what you do?
Sure. I believe that everyone has the right and the capacity to thrive at work and in their lives beyond work.
And what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
The best piece of advice I've received came from a yoga teacher I used to study with, who would say, stay on your own mat. And that means to stay fully present with what you're doing and avoid comparing yourself to others.
Oh, I really like that. And tell us, what's a personal habit that helps you become better at what you do?
Boy, I don't know that I have just one. I'd say reflection and experimentation.
Good one. And tell us, is there a book that you'd recommend and why?
Yes, I'm a big fan of Sharon Salzberg. She's got a book out called Real Happiness, and it is really timeless advice about how to avoid overwhelm and stay centered.
Sounds very much on topic for our conversation for next week's show. And tell us, why should our tribe come back and listen to the show next week?
Because burnout is a problem that can creep up on anyone. It can take a really huge toll. So we'll be talking about how to stay engaged in your career over the long haul and to keep thriving.
I am really thrilled that you have come on the show, Monique. I can't wait to share your interview with everyone next week. So thank you so much for joining us today for the Precore Quickfire 5.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Hi, I'm Ilana Wexler, and I was a Fitness Business Podcast guest. You've been listening to another outstanding guest. If you know someone who could benefit from listening to the show, please share the show by email, Facebook, or Twitter. All possible on this week's show notes. If you really want some tips, you'd better hit up my show. Trust me, it's a cracking show as I share my takeaways on using Facebook marketing in your business. Just go to www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and in the search bar, type my name, Ilana Wexler. I'll spell that for you. ILANAWECHSLER, and my show will pop up. Just listen.
Great show this week that you should be suffering DOMs, delayed onset mind soreness, as you are overloaded and that's when your mind is strengthened. You and your business have been strengthened thanks to the amazing support of our premier sponsor, Active Management. Check out www.activemgmt.com.au only if you want to strengthen your business and your leadership. Don't forget all today's links and notes are found at www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, where you can also subscribe and never miss a show and maybe win a prize. Next week is another incredible guest with Chantal, so get ready for more Fit Bizpiration.